We're heading to Glastonbury now. We're talking about pharmacies. How often do you use yours? Some have started to disappear already from our high streets in Somerset as Boots starts plans to shut 300 stores across the UK. The pharmacy chain says it will shut stores in close proximity to each other as part of plans to consolidate the business. It's also added that no redundancies are planned. Well, we know Wellington's losing one of its branches, but in Glastonbury, Boots is closing next weekend, and that means that the town is left with just one pharmacy. Here's what some local people think.
I think it's really shocking that it's closed, and Boots is so well known. We need it here. The nearest one now is Street or Wells. I mean, Street is nearer, but yeah, we're all absolutely shocked. Cannot believe it.
Well, I think it's a shame. I like Boots, and it's a shame it's not going to be here anymore. And actually, the pharmacy is not in the high street.
I think it's a real shame. Boots has been here for years, isn't it?
What will you do?
What can you do? Boycott Boots.
Will you have to travel to get any prescriptions now then?
Well, we have to travel anyway because
Right.
we live in a smaller village, so it's always been handy to call in when we're in Glastonbury.
Yeah.
Emma King runs a business in the town, has set up a petition calling for urgent action on this. Emma, good morning. Thanks for speaking to us today. Tell us then, obviously this is closing in Glastonbury, as we've heard. What impact will it have on the people there?
Hi. Well, yeah, it's going to be really dramatic, I think, because the Glastonbury has got 9,000 to 10,000 people in it, and we have obviously got new housing estates being built at the moment as well. Up until August, we actually had 3 pharmacies because we also had one in Tesco, and that closed on the 20th of August. And then shortly after that, the announcement was made that Boots is going to close as well, which is literally the main pharmacy in town because it's right on the high street. Once Boots closes, we'll have one very small pharmacy connected to a doctor's surgery on Faversham Lane. And obviously this is going to have massive impacts on people who are really already really struggling. Not everyone can use the internet. Not everyone finds that is helpful to them. Not everyone can even access the internet. And obviously transport links are very poor as well. So people having to travel, as is being advised by Boots, to Street or Wells or even Shepton to collect prescriptions is very much dependent on whether they can get to those places. And of course, then there's the additional costs of travelling to those places in order to pick up a prescription, which is already quite expensive in the first place. And additionally to that, of course, there are people who have very complex care needs. And some of these people have developed quite close relationships with some of the pharmacists in Boots. And those people are now going. And I know that people have been travelling around trying to find people that understand their needs, and they're finding it very distressing and stressful. And clearly, distress and stress can only add to poor health anyway. So it's extremely worrying. And of course, we have a lot of visitors to Glastonbury as well, and they won't be able to find the other pharmacy, which is already extremely overloaded. Even before Tesco closed, the pharmacy was struggling.
I mean, this is Boots as they're a commercial power. They're not there as part of the NHS, if you like. They're not designed to help people even when they're making a loss, if that's what they're thinking that the issue is here. So isn't it just market forces? When there's enough of a call, there'll be another pharmacy that opens up?
Well, yeah, I see what you're saying here, but the issue really is that Boots itself, the petition that I have running on change.org is called Glastonbury High Street Needs a Pharmacy. We're not trying to save Boots, we're trying to get another pharmacy. Clearly, Boots is trying to be run at a profit. The person who runs it lives in America. He doesn't have any understanding of the needs of our local community because he's got absolutely no contact with it. So obviously, all he's looking at is profit margins. But the issue here is not about Boots. The issue here is about the necessity of a pharmacy. And yet, obviously, there are market forces, but the problem is that pharmacies are a vital service to local people. They are not, they should not be being run for profit. People need these pharmacies to be in places that are accessible to them. And we've seen over the last 10 years or so, a steady erosion of all of our public services. So obviously a lot of places have lost post offices, a lot of places have lost libraries, we've lost police stations. we're losing, obviously, the mental health ward in Wells is scheduled to be closed too. And the issues are that they continually remove services from us that we desperately need to be local to us, and put them in places which are largely inaccessible to a large number of people. And they don't give us any additional means of travelling to these places, because whilst these cuts are going on, they also cut the bus services. So it's like we're in rural areas, we are doubly punished, really, for trying to live somewhere pleasant.
I do take your point, but there are a lot of bus services between. I mean, of all the places in Somerset, probably between Glastonbury and Street must be one of the busiest bus routes of the whole lot, because you've got several services that do that route. A lot of people picking up prescriptions will have free bus passes, and those who don't will be able to benefit from lower bus prices, which are currently in place as well. So is it all, Street and Glastonbury are very close together?
Yeah, that is absolutely true, and I take your point on that as well. But the issue, of course, is that that these pharmacies, there's only 2 pharmacies in Street. Street is a bigger place than Glastonbury, even though it's a village. So they already have long queues for the people that already are in Street. So it's hardly fair that people from Glastonbury should have to go to all other overloaded pharmacies in order to get their prescriptions. So it's not just an issue of transport costs, although of course there is a shortage of some medicines as well, which means that people could then find themselves travelling a lot further than Street to get medicines anyway.
I know that you've met, haven't you, with the NHS Somerset's Integrated Care Board. They're the ones responsible for pharmacy services here in the county. We have asked them for a response on this. Haven't heard back from them. Of course, we'll let you know if we do. But you've had a meeting with them, haven't you? How successful was that?
Well, it was quite interesting. I mean, initially they wanted to have an online meeting with us, and we thought that we would like them to come and meet us face to face in Glastonbury, so they could get a bit of a feel for what it's actually like here and the sort of issues that we face. So it was me and Councillor Paul Manning and Jackie Cross, who is helping with the health and wellbeing facility, which is being set up in Glastonbury. And we so the problem is that the Integrated Care Board are largely focusing on putting money into and resources into Knights, our remaining pharmacy, which seems to be a good thing, but only really as a short-term measure, because it's a very, very small pharmacy. It's not in a very good location. It isn't on any bus routes. As I said, it literally just serves the doctor's surgery on Faversham Lane. It was never intended to serve the whole town. Boots has always been the main pharmacy for the town. So they told us that in order for Glastonbury to get a new pharmacy provider more quickly, that it is incumbent upon Somerset Unitary Council to call for a pharmacy needs assessment. And apparently these happen every few years as a matter of course, as to something that the Unitary Council does. But they apparently had one of these last year. Now, obviously, last year across the whole of Somerset, they would have recognised that we already had 3 pharmacies, so we had no additional need for any new pharmacies. So providers would not be looking at Glastonbury as a place to move into. Now, I did see Bill Revan, who is head of the Somerset Council, very briefly a couple of weeks ago at the Integrated Care Board AGM, and asked him about having an emergency pharmacy needs assessment for Glastonbury because it is so desperately needed. And to be fair, his response wasn't very positive. He just seemed to be thinking that was going to be a lot of work, which, considering the amount of suffering that this closure is going to cause for people in town, I thought was a bit of a poor response, really.
Well, we haven't got him. I realise you're sort of saying that from a conversation you've had with him. We haven't got him to sort of give his view on it from here now. So are you hopeful then the next time these meetings do happen, and I realise you want them to happen sooner, but let's just say it happens the next time. Are you happy and confident that Glastonbury will be flagged up as needing another one then, now you're down to just the one?
Well, I think it will happen, but the case is, when will it happen? And obviously, as I say, this is a very urgent need. I mean, it's not something we're going to manage on one pharmacy for very long. I mean, so I believe that we will get another pharmacy. But clearly, we need one as soon as possible. I mean, Councillor Paul Manning has been talking to other providers behind the scenes to try and see if there's anybody who he can find who might be able to move into the town. And so far, he's only really managed to identify that one of the pharmacies in Wells, I think it's on Priory Park, has agreed that they would be able to take on some additional workload. Because they're turning prescriptions around apparently in a day. Knight's pharmacy is taking from anything from like a week to 10 days to turn around prescriptions, which clearly, for a lot of people is really unacceptable. And of course, that itself is causing people to travel further afield. So, I mean, I believe, of course, with the running too many prescriptions, two things beginning with P. One in the petition, I believe that part of that and continuing to have conversations with the Integrated Care Board will continue to put pressure on them to provide us with a new pharmacy as soon as possible.
Emma, we're going to have to. Emma, sorry to interrupt. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for chatting to us today.
Can I just say that we're having a demo next Saturday when the pharmacy actually closes on the 14th of October at midday, just outside Boots on the High Street, which is 39 High Street, Glastonbury, and that's mainly just to raise awareness of the issue, really. So if anyone would like to come along to that would be really good.
Emma, thank you for your time today. Emma King there from Glastonbury set up this petition calling for action after the closure of Boots Pharmacy in the town. Now, as I said, we're yet to hear from Somerset's ICB, Integrated Care Board. But in the meantime, the government said it's monitoring access to pharmaceutical services and it's announced almost £650 million of additional funding for the sector on top of the £2.6 billion it provided every year. It added that it had also provided thousands more training places for pharmacists as well. It's BBC Radio Somerset. Good morning.